Ciao, my name is Alessandro, but you can call me 𝗬𝗓𝗘𝗏, and today we're talking about something like surprising board games, which basically in my mind means like game that I didn't expect to be that good but ended up being very good, you know? So 1 month ago we talked about disappointing board games, which were games that I had very high expectations on and somehow ended up disappointing those expectations. Not because they're not good board games, but because I had such high expectations and there were some things that didn't really vibe with me and those games, and I still like them, but I wish I liked them more, okay? So I thought, what about switching the perspective here and we talk about games that I had lower expectations on but then turned out to be very good, you know? And that's what we're doing today. In case you want to check out my video about disappointing board games, I don't know, it's kind of like a bad title, but I couldn't think about something better. You can find it at the link showing right now at the top right corner of the screen. Now, before starting to list the games that I want to talk about, in the chapter of this video and in the description below you're gonna find all the timestamps to jump to the relative section on the game that you wanna hear about, so you can do that if you want. And I just want to remind you that if you like this kind of content, board games and playthroughs, but also this kind of small reviews about board games, you can leave a like to this video, subscribe to my channel. I would be immensely grateful if you decided to do so. It would help me very much grow and do more. Thank you if you decided to do so. Now on to our very first game I want to talk about today. So the first game we're gonna be talking about today is Tiny Epic Dungeons, which is kind of a hot topic right now because of the recent Kickstarter campaign, but we're gonna talk about it at the end of this section. In case you're not familiar with the Tiny Epic family, it's basically like small box games that have a lot of content in it. It's like they don't feel like small box games, but they are tiny. You see? They're tiny, but they're epic. Tiny Epic Dungeon is a collaborative dungeon crawler where basically you're gonna be fighting goblins, collecting loot, spell inside the dungeon, fighting minions, and then fighting a final boss and trying to survive all sorts of traps. The gameplay for this game is divided in 2 acts. In the first act, you're gonna be fighting minions and looking for minions inside the dungeon. In the game there are 3 types of enemies: goblins, minions, and bosses, and this is the order of difficulty of them. So minions are kind of like medium heavy kind of enemies, and once you're able to defeat a number of minions equal to the number of players, which are also all the minions available in your dungeon once you set it up, so 3 players, 3 minions, 2 players, 2 minions, you're gonna be able to look for the Lairs door, a specific tile inside the dungeon, and enter in Act 2. And you know what you're gonna be doing during Act 2? The most obvious thing you can do in a dungeon crawler, which is fighting the boss and trying to kill it. What's amazing about this game? Let's start by the tiny epic aspect of it. We shouldn't be surprised anymore about how Tiny Epic series are able to pack so much content in such like a heavy game in such a small box, but this is exactly what happened in Tiny Epic Dungeons. Don't expect a lightweight game, don't expect like super heavy game, but it's kind of like a medium heavy kind of game inside a super tiny box. To me this is impressive. Some other people find it very limiting and annoying that all the components are small and everything, but I promise you nothing is too small and everything is the right size, okay? It is the right size. There are drawbacks connected to this, but we're gonna talk about it later. But just so you know, in this tiny box there are 8 different heroes, 6 different bosses, 8 different minions in this box. So you can replay this game a ton without getting bored. Different combinations of heroes, bosses, and minions all the time. And that to me is just impressive. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. You don't always need a big box game. But what I really like the most about this game is how the dice work. So each hero has different stats. You have 3 different stats. They are agility, strength, and I think intelligence. I don't know, something about magic. It doesn't really matter. So each stat is gonna allow our hero, whenever they test on that specific stat, to roll 1, 2, or 3 dice. And most of the time it's gonna build your character so that their higher stat, so the one where they roll 3 dice, is gonna be the stat that they're gonna be using the most. So most of the times you're gonna be rolling 3 dice, okay? So let's take that as an example. After rolling the dice, you're gonna have to choose one of those results as your main die. And that's gonna be your test result. Nothing special so far. You're basically gonna take the highest one probably, right? But what's original about the dice rolls is that the 1s and the 2s are not simply a 1 or 2, but they are a +1 or a +2, which means you can add 1 or 2 or even more dices that have 1 and 2 to your main die. So suppose you roll a 6, a 1 and a 2, then you could decide to have a test of 6 simply using the 6, or having a test of 7 doing 6 + 1, or having a test of 8, 6 + 2, or having 9, 6 + 1 + 2, and using all of them. On the other hand, if you're rolling a 6, a 1 and a 3, you can decide to have 6 + 1, 3 + 1, just the 6, just the 3, but you cannot do 6 + 3 because the 3 is not an additive number in this game. I hope this is clear enough. Another addition to how you're choosing your dice is not just I want the highest value all the time, right? Because these dice, together with the number, have some symbols. These symbols represent health on the 6th phase and then focus on some other phases of the die. And these are the two main resources of your hero. Health is clearly the health of the hero, and focus is basically a resource that the heroes can spend to upgrade their weapons or use some spells or even change the value of the dice up and down, and do many other things, to be honest. So the cool concept here is whatever you're not using as your main die or your additive die, you can use to gather resources somehow. So if you're successful at the test you're performing, you're gonna be able to gather the resources printed on any unused die and gather health or gather more focus. So sometimes you really wanna optimize, optimize the dice you're using together with the resources you would be getting if you wouldn't have used some of the dice. And that's super peculiar and super smart. I love it. So this means that the dice roll is not anymore just the dice roll when you want to get the highest number or the lowest number in some other games, but you really want to try to manage your resources. It's a way to gather resources or succeed at a test or manipulate dice. It's just like a chain of events that you really want to time correctly. Another very cool thing about this game is that sometimes dungeon crawlers is just like deal the damage to the boss and that's it, and try to kill it, right? Well, in this game the bosses have some restrictions to how much health they can lose. On the boss tracks up on the health markers, there's gonna be some altar spaces. And that means that you cannot go below that health threshold for the bosses unless you have dragged the boss on some altars. The altars are gonna be the spaces in the dungeon where you have found your minions or the entrance of the dungeon itself. So you really at the beginning wanna try to run away from the boss instead of attacking it and try to make him move on the altar spaces because it's gonna try to chase you down. Or you can actually spend some focus and actions to make the boss move towards you using a special action called taunt. So the boss fight is not anymore something like deal damage and wreck the boss, but it's also like the boss needs to move on this space. How can I optimize my strategy so that I make the boss move onto an altar and then wreck him? Because ultimately you need to wreck him, you need to lower his health to 0. So these are cool aspects that make this dungeon crawler stand out from some other dungeon crawlers in my opinion. And now I want to talk about a few drawbacks, because we talked about the fact that it is a tiny box. How do you make such a tiny box? You use a lot of symbols, and this game, I tell you, a lot of people will complain about it. It is a nightmare of symbols. There are so many symbols. Don't worry, like at some point you're gonna get around it. You're gonna have to take some time, invest some time in understanding all these symbols, but you're gonna get a handle of it. But you need to put some effort in it, and you're gonna have to know that there are a lot of symbols. And if that's not okay for you, then this is not the game for you. And I said this is a kind of a hot topic game because there has been recently a Kickstarter for a campaign-driven, I'm so excited, version of this game, which is Tiny Epic Dungeons Adventures. I backed it for $1 for now. I'm probably gonna complete it in the Pledge Manager because I never backed the Kickstarter, and I'm reluctant on doing crowdfunding campaigns because I don't know how they work, so I'm being very cautious, but I will get this game for sure because I like Tiny Epic Dungeons so much that I'm really craving for a campaign style game based on the same system, and I'm excited to see what they have in store. I also have played this game multiple times on my channel, and you can find the playthroughs showing right now at the top right corner of the screen, but keep in mind, those are old videos, they're not edited. I was not editing videos at the time for my playthrough, so it's more like a live stream of me playing, kind of. So, you've been warned, you've been warned. The next game we're gonna be talking about today is Welcome to the Moon. How many times have I talked about this game on my channel? 1,000. But because everybody needs to know about this game. This game is one game of the Welcome to series, and obviously Welcome to, which is the base game, is the most famous of the series, but I think it really shouldn't be. I think this one should be the most famous one. It is basically a flip and write game, and when I saw that the flip and write game costed something between 40 and 50 euros, I was reluctant. I didn't want to spend that much for a flip and write games, usually they're much cheaper, right? So much so that I ended up buying the cheapest offer I found on the internet, only to discover it was a German copy, and I didn't realize. I opened it and I couldn't return it anymore. You can see I had my doubts about this game, I really had my doubts. But a friend was like, come on, get it, we're gonna play a full campaign, it's gonna be amazing, it's gonna be worth it, and I was like, sure, let's do it. Spoiler, we still haven't finished the campaign, we're still missing one adventure, but because basically now the winner is already declared, so it's kinda not that worth it to finish the adventure, but I kinda wanna finish it. But I have played a full campaign solo, actually an advanced campaign, you're gonna understand what that means, on my channel, and you're gonna find the playlist showing right now at the top right corner of the screen. And this time it's edited, I promise. This time I did my best. It was already my editing era, so they're good to watch, okay? They're good to watch. Well, to me this game is not just a flip and write, but it is the flip and write, okay? It is sweet. I mentioned the campaign because this game has inside of it 8 different adventures that you can play either in campaign mode or standalone mode. You choose. You don't have to play the campaign if you don't want to, but you can, and I think you should. And what shocked me is how wildly different these 8 adventures can be, because the mechanic of the game at its core is always the same. You choose a number symbol combination from one of the 3 decks that you're flipping, but the ways to use those number symbol combinations on each different map for each adventure is so wildly different. It feels like a different game completely. I promise you, it feels like amazing. Even more insane is that there isn't just one campaign, which is the first one you would play, the basic one, but there are 2 or actually 3 or even more, because I know that there are at least 3 campaigns inside the box, but you can have even more. Now they aren't wildly different, okay, but one is basic, one is advanced. So far I played only these 2, and the advanced one definitely adds like some fun twists. They are unexpected like changes in how the game works, or added components to a map, or even changes in the gameplay depending on the choices you make. It is really gonna change how you play each scenario, and sometimes these changes are unexpected, so it's amazing how they did this kind of campaign system. You're a solo player? No problem. The solo mode is amazing. It feels even different than the base multiplayer game. There is an AI that you're gonna have to beat, because usually in flip and writes, roll and writes, most of the times you're gonna have to beat your own score. This game doesn't do that. This game has an AI that is gonna try to obstacle you, but also get more points than you do, so you're gonna have to compete against an AI. And this bot, this AI, is gonna evolve based on how well you did during your adventure, your previous adventure. So it's also gonna scale automatically the difficulty for you, and it works in a different way compared to the multiplayer, as I said. So you're also maybe gonna try and change your strategy. So playing the multiplayer will have a strategy, and playing the solo is gonna have a different strategy. So what can I say about this game? It has excellent quality of components, the boards are amazing. The cards are amazing, the boxes inside the box are amazing for the campaigns, spoilers and so on. The gameplay is amazing. The solo mode is amazing, the art is amazing, and the replayability is amazing. The markers aren't very amazing. The markers that came in my box at least were bad. Like, I had to replace them right away. But apart from that, everything else is so well crafted. I am so happy I paid those 40 euros for the game. So I'm really hoping this game gets the love it deserves. Try it out. If you have a chance of someone, you know, someone that has it, try it out. Try the first 2 or 3 adventures because they're gonna feel completely different, because the first one is very basic, the second is very hard, and the third is probably the most pleasant of the 3 that I mentioned. So try it out and let me know what you think. Or maybe just watch my videos, you know? That's why I have a channel with playthroughs, to help you make informed choices on games. Link is in the description, just reminding you. The third game we're gonna be talking about today is Cubitos. I kinda wanna say Cubitos. It feels like Spanish somehow. I'm not Spanish, I'm Italian, but still. I think it's Cubitos, but we'll say Cubitos. Hopefully, I will remember to say Cubitos. This game is a dice push your luck cubes racing game. If the description wasn't already amazing to you, then we cannot be friends, okay? So this game is to a certain extent kind of silly, just like many push your luck games. You sometimes, you know, you don't have like a very clear strategy on what you're doing. You're just pulling things out of a bag or rolling dice and hoping to make the best out of it. But just like in many push your luck games, you can make informed purchases to upgrade your bag, dice pool or whatever. So there is strategy to it. So this game is all about a race and you want to cross the finish line first, and you do that by using your dice that are either gonna give you movement or credits and coins to be spent on your purchases later on. There are different type of dice in this game. There are the gray and black ones, which are kind of basic dice, but then there are all the 8 different colorful dice, and each of them will have a special ability. So there are 8 different dice that you can purchase from the shop with special abilities other than movements and coins. Now the great thing about this game is that for each of these 8 dice you can have 7 different rule sets. So for each color you can pick a different rule every time you play. Now of course there are recommended sets that will tell you like to pair certain amount of dice together, and there are like, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 configuration already in the box that are suggested. But you can mix and match. You can mix and match however you want all these 7 configuration for the 8 dice however you want. Now I obviously wanted to compute how many different possible configuration you could play, and that should be something like 7 to the power of 8. There should be permutations of some sort, and that leads us to a number of, if it focuses, 5,764,801 different possible configurations. I would say replayability is there. I also want to add that there are 4 different maps, so there are 20 actually different configuration if you also add the map to the equation. 20 million. Are you gonna play a game 20 million times? Maybe. I don't know you. Maybe you're crazy. Maybe you have a lot of time on your hands. Who knows? Really, the most surprising part of this game is how fun it is. Everybody's always having a blast when I play this game. Everybody, no one excluded. It is silly fun because you're just rolling dice sometimes, but it is also like studied. You need to put some strategy in it. And to make you understand why this is fun, I can give you a small glimpse of how the game works. So, at the beginning of your turn, you're gonna choose 9 dice from your dice pool to be rolling. All of the dice in this game have a lot of blank sides, so sides with like nothing on it, and those are considered misses. All the dice that you're rolling that have a symbol on it are considered hits. And this is where the push your luck mechanics comes in, because basically you can roll all your misses as many times as you want, but you need to keep in mind that if you had at least 3 hits in the dice you rolled, and then you end up for some reason rolling all misses on the rerolls that you're doing, then you're gonna bust. Which means you won't gain benefits of anything that you have rolled, you're just gonna basically skip your turn and have to try to make up for it in the next turn. After everybody is busted or is satisfied with what they've rolled, then people are gonna start moving on the racetrack or buying more dice with their credits, money, and so on, making their dice pool better and improving it. Another super amazing thing is that everybody can roll at the same time if there's trust in the game group you're playing with. So there's basically no downtime in the gameplay. Everybody can do their turns at the same time and no one's gonna get bored just waiting for someone else to do their turn. So it's very quick and fun and like, I don't know, snappy. Plus, there are a lot of catch-up mechanics, so you're gonna be able to roll more dice depending on several different things like how many times you busted or how behind you are. And that's gonna help you to never feel hopeless in your chances of winning the game. So I feel like if you're looking for a light game, up to 4 players, unfortunately only, but a light game that everybody can have a blast with, this is the perfect game. It's just silly but strategic because you really need to think about which dice you want and which dice are better with the different configuration that you have chosen and what is the best strategy for you in that case. If you tried this game, let me know what you think about it, let me know if you agree with me. I hope you do, but if you don't, it's fine. Not everybody enjoys silly fun. The next game we're gonna be talking about is Prehistories. Not a very popular game, to be honest, I feel like. And this is a competitive game from 2 to 5 players about sending your hunters to hunt some animals in prehistory and paint your caverns with them. I don't know how would you paint your caverns with like animals, like do you decorate them, hang them on the walls, do you use their blood? It's a little bit brutal, but also looks super cute, so you don't feel the brutality of it all. So basically in this game you're gonna have something called the totem tokens and you wanna get rid of all of them, and how you do that is by completing some objectives. How you complete your objectives is by painting your cavern right. So this is a polyomino style tile placing game where your cavern is basically a grid and you're gonna be placing tiles in your cavern to try and achieve different objectives and get rid of your tokens and win. The first person who gets rid of them wins. Well, the fun thing about this game is that I was about to sell it, because I'm not a big fan of tile placing games usually. Well, the fun thing about this game is that I was about to sell it, because I'm not a big fan of tile placing games in general, not just polyomino style tile placing games. But then I thought, I kind of enjoy the mechanics of this game and I have never seen this kind of mechanics that I will describe in any other games. And I gave it more chances and I can tell you, this is a cool game with cool mechanics that I don't think we have seen in many other games. But you can let me know if you find something similar. So the best part and most innovative part about this game is how you acquire tiles to put in your cavern, okay? So as I said, you're gonna send hunters. Hunters are cards in your hand and each hunter has a different value in strength. They can range, I think, from 1 to 6. At the beginning of the turn, everybody kind of secretly decides how many hunters to send and their value in strength. And then everybody reveals at the same time. The more strength in hunters you're gonna send, the biggest tiles you're gonna be able to purchase, which are gonna help you fill the cavern more quickly, or even you're gonna be able to buy more than one tile. Then why not always choosing all the hunters in my hand and being always the strongest? Because you're gonna lose priority. Because the priority is gonna go to the players who are gonna send the least total strength. The tiles in a shop are limited. So if you're overcommitting hunters, you might find yourself in a situation where there aren't any more tiles available for you to purchase. Or the tile that you really wanted to complete that objective because you really needed that tile is gone. Someone took it already. So there is a balance between sending enough hunters to get what you need, but also not send too much because you wanna be fast in the turn priority. I think the only game that I know that does something similar is a very recent game called 𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗃. I think it literally just came out and people are receiving it at the moment. So it has a similar mechanic of like, I don't know if you want to say bidding somehow, okay? So committing resources to purchase something in a shop. And I found it fun. I found it very innovative and very cool, honestly. But that's not all. Something else to keep in mind is how you purchase tiles. The tiles can be bought at full price or a discounted price. And that's important because That is gonna determine how many cards you're gonna be able to draw at the end of your turn. And obviously having more cards in hand is gonna give you more possibilities for your next rounds. So you really wanna be mindful of that. If you've bought at least 2 tiles at discounted price, you're gonna be drawing 0 cards. If you bought 1 tile at discounted price, you're gonna be able to draw 1 card. If you bought all of your tiles at a full price, then you're gonna be able to draw 2 cards. And if you for some reason haven't bought any tiles because you didn't want to or you weren't able to, then you're gonna be able to draw 3 cards. So buying more tiles at discounted price is basically gonna slow you down in future turns, or sometimes you just wanna take a turn and chill because you don't have the cards that you want from your hand and just buy no tiles and just get cards flowing into your hand. Both of these mechanics I described are compromise sort of mechanics that are really gonna make this game shine if you bring it to the table. It is fun, I liked it very much, and that's why this game has made it into this list. Now, before we talk about the last game that I want to mention for this video, I want to remind you that if you like this kind of content, I would be immensely grateful. I would appreciate it super much if you decide to leave a like to this video, subscribe to my channel. But now, on to the last game about this video. I'm not gonna be able to lift this game because this game is massive, is huge, humongous, and it is Dwellings of Eldervale. You can see it here, you know, I can just point at it. When I bought this game, I really wasn't sure. This was my first big box game and I was scared because it was big, because it was expensive, and because it has deluxe components that I really didn't care about so far, usually. I don't know if I ever cared about the 𝗪𝗁𝗵 components. I watched many videos, I tried to make a very informed decision about it, and I hoped for it to be a good game. But I was very doubtful the purchase would have been worth the price. Well, let me tell you, I was wrong. So this is a Euro-style worker placement, tableau building, or to a certain extent even area control battling kind of game. And you might have understood this game has a lot to it, a lot of mechanics, a lot of different things that you can do and that are going on during the gameplay. And when a game is just like that, usually it's a bad game. Everything becomes chaotic. Too much of everything, usually in board games design, is a very bad choice. It's usually just a power move. Look how many mechanics I can add into this game. It's stupid. But this game, I tell you, everything works perfectly and it makes sense. Sure, it takes like 40 minutes to explain all the rules to this game. There are so many nuances and stuff, but the consensus, at least among my friends, is that when they played it, after a couple rounds, they got basically how the game was working very quickly, and everything was just making sense. It was streamlined. It was like obvious cause consequence, you know? I'm usually not the biggest fan of heavily strategic Euro games because sometimes you feel like you're playing a game and you don't really understand where you're going with your strategy because everything is like a little bit foggy, not very defined. While what I liked about this game is that everybody, even new players, after a couple rounds were able to form some sort of valid strategy to move on. And that's rare, in my opinion. That is rare for games of this complexity. Another very incredible thing about this game is the quality of components. Not just talking about the art, because I don't know, the art is really like something that speaks to me, is right up my alley, but it might not be the case for everybody else, right? But being this game the first game with like super high quality components, that might have shifted something in me. That might have, honestly. Now I love the 𝗪𝗁𝗵 components and very well crafted games. Listen, I'm not one to care about minis. I usually don't even want minis in my game, okay? This game, I wanted the standard edition, the retail edition without the minis. I didn't want to pay like 300 more crowns, which is like 30 euros more just to have the minis. But I'm very happy that I found someone selling it secondhand with the minis, because the minis are amazing. Like these minis are, with the wash of color, the way they're, I don't know, painted and crafted, they're amazing. But they are only in the deluxe edition, okay? Now if we talk the retail standard edition, well, each faction has their own tray where they store all the components. The meeples are wooden meeples that are super sturdy with like paint or like laser paint on it. I don't know how it's done, but it's beautiful. The storage solution inside this huge box is amazing. Everything fits perfectly, and I understand it's a huge box. Maybe people don't want that. It's very hard to carry around, but it's perfectly designed to contain even all the expansions. As I said, the workers' meeples are amazing, but also like the wizard, the warrior, and the dragon, they just look amazing on the board and feel amazing on your hand, like tactile sensation. And this game is called Dwellings of Eldervale because you're gonna be building dwellings. And how do you do that? Well, you're gonna have to place a roof on your workers, sacrifice one of your workers to make them become a cute little house. And I don't think you can give for granted the study and the amount of production that went into being able to fit a roof inside a meeple, okay? On top of a meeple. I don't think we can underestimate there. It's a cute little thing. They could have just said like, remove the worker from the game and place a dwelling or something like that. No, you are transforming your worker into a dwelling. It might be stupid, but it makes the game fun, okay? Board games are board games because they sit on a table, and sometimes even just the tactile experience or visual experience are very important. Now, talking about the mechanics of the game, this is, as I said, is at its core a worker placement game. But beware, worker placement games sometimes can get frustrating because if someone gets in the space you really wanted to get into, then you're stuck and you cannot go there. Well, this game does it in a different way. You can get in a space with someone else already in it. You just trigger a battle. You might have to fight to keep your spot in that realm, in that space on the board. Maybe you don't even want to stay there. Maybe you just want to trigger the benefit that is on the tile and that you would be able to do anyways. So sometimes losing a battle is not even that meaningful to you. And I really like that it doesn't limit you. The worker placement aspect of the game doesn't limit you on the type of actions you're actually able to do. Moreover, just like in every worker placement games, or most of them, there's gonna be a recall turn. In this case it's called regroup, so you're gonna be taking all your units from the realms and place them back available to you to be used in future rounds. Well, it's very interesting that in this game doing a regroup turn is gonna allow you to trigger many cool, powerful actions. So the units you're recalling, you're not just taking them back, but you're using them to activate some actions on the tableau of cards you have been building during the turns. So your tableau of cards you're building not only is gonna score you points, but it's gonna give you powerful actions for when you're recalling units. I don't know many games that do this. Your regroup action could even be more productive than any other turns you could take. Regrouping sometimes is key to winning, while in many other games it's just a wasted turn. The last thing I want to mention for this game is replayability. There are basically 16 different factions to be able to choose among as your faction, so as your player faction, and that makes replayability just very high, you know? I'm pretty sure I played the game already 4 or 5 times and I haven't seen all of them yet. Just as a bonus, I want to say that also the solo game works very well. I like the AI of the solo version of the game, so it can be also for you solo players. It can be enjoyable. I also have playthroughs on this channel about this game, but as I said, they are not edited, at least at the time. I want to make more edited. But just keep in mind it's gonna be showing up right now at the top right corner of the screen. But if you just wanna have a hint of how the solo mode works, you can have it. And I also have an unboxing kind of video overview where I show all the components. Not the best video again, it was very early in my YouTube career, let's say, but just keep that in mind. And this was all I wanted to mention for this video. I hope you agree on many of these games, and I don't know if you do, but if you don't, let me know in the comments below. Let me know if some of these games actually really disappointed you on the other hand. You were expecting more and you got less than your expectations would have hoped for. Is that even an English sentence? I don't know. But thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you soon in some other videos like this or playthroughs. I do a lot of playthroughs too. You might browse my channel and check for more of those. You're probably gonna find something you like in the playlist section, and thank you again. Ciao ciao.